results achieved in 2023 and possibly the forecast for 2024?
2023 has developed into a very good year. We are surpassing the records of 2019, which was the best year ever before the pandemic. And we're surpassing the results with the number of tourists visiting Malta, the number of bed nights spent in Malta and Gozo, and more importantly, the income that is generated into the Maltese economy. Until the end of the year, we're estimating to reach about 2.9 million tourists, which is 150,000 more than what we had in 2019. The result is very good because it has come from different destinations, from different countries, so the increase in tourists is not only from one source, but from different sources. We have an increase of Italian tourists, Polish tourists, French tourists, Eastern European countries. So we are also achieving the goal of having a spread of tourism throughout the year and also diversifying our source markets. In the past, the UK market was around 70% of tourism to Malta. Nowadays, it is 18-19% of tourism, and the biggest market this year, Italy, is just under 20%. So we're achieving a spread of tourism from different sources, from different countries, both in Europe and also beyond Europe. The prospects of 2024 are even better. The latest information we have from different sources and also from the industry in Malta, as well as the airlines flying to Malta, shows a very healthy booking pattern for 2024, and we expect a good increase on 2023, both in terms of tourists and also higher income derived from tourism.
Have you managed to achieve the goals set before the very first National Conference on Tourism and possibly the objectives you've set out beforehand?
I think we can proudly say that we did. It was a very ambitious endeavor in a very busy calendar year, trying to re-establish tourism debate on the national calendar. I think the turnout was very encouraging. We had a huge number of people attending. We had a very impressive array of speakers and panelists. We had the perfect introduction by the highest political representation in the land. We had the Honourable Prime Minister and the Minister for Tourism. The range of topics discussed was very wide. However, it centered around sustainability, which has become a key word in all discussions relating to development in the contemporary world. So I think we're very encouraged, we're very pleased with the outcome, and we will start working on next year's edition immediately after we take a short break after this conference.
And what next for the Malta Tourism Observatory now?
Well, the observatory, which has now been so loudly presented to the industry and the public, will focus on producing the indicators that we have discussed, so that this time next year, when we're here, we will not just be talking about what we intend to do, but we'll be presenting the wide range of indicators, sustainability indicators relating to tourism, to help the tourism industry and the government to plan and manage tourism to the Maltese Islands for the future in a more responsible and a more informed way.
So, Dr. Gulia, in your view, what were the main drivers behind Malta's rapid recovery in the tourism industry following the pandemic?
Yes, in the tourism industry, and I think this has universal application, connectivity is key. Without the vehicle to bring tourists to Malta or anywhere in the world, you cannot have tourism. So it was very important to recover the numbers, and you do it by recovering the routes and the frequency of the flights that we had pre-pandemic, and to strengthen it even more. I think that is one of the main objectives of the MTA in the recovery period. Obviously, that has to be supplemented and supported by more focused marketing. Marketing on the creation of niches, because it is fundamental that we grow tourism by reinventing niches. It's very important in order to achieve growth. Obviously, you need the product. And I remember during the recovery period, MTA invested a lot in the regeneration of iconic sites around Malta and Gozo, so that we would have a better product to offer our tourists, not only for the beaches, but also for our cultural and historical heritage.
Dr. Gulia, thank you so much. Mr. Micallef, how important is it for Malta and the future competitiveness of the industry to continue focusing on innovative evolution?
Given the challenges we face, particularly arising from climate change, actions, shortage of staff, supply, and economic challenges we face, I mean, this is critically important. In order that we can take a full review of the product supply, we have to identify what we can be strong at, looking at a low impact and high value development of the product. I mean, this is essential for us to survive. Malta has particular challenges related to its size and, of course, density levels. And, of course, it's a one-time opportunity to get it right.
In what ways is Malta currently trying to lead by example when it comes to climate-friendly travel?
In a number of ways, Malta is trying to be a global centre of climate-friendly travel. Number one, together with the support of MTA and the Ministry of Tourism, we created an organisation in Malta, SunX Malta. And SunX Malta is an institute, an NGO, and its goal is to take young people who are much more conscious about the imperative to move quickly to deal with climate change and to bring them into a travel framework. So we created a diploma with ITS. We've put over 100 students through that diploma. We created a course of 300 hours of lectures. And then we take these young people, we make them interns for a year, and we put them in their own countries, which are the world's poorest countries, small island developing states, the ones who really need the climate justice and the support because they didn't create the climate problem, and they're the ones who are suffering the most from it, and they're incapable of responding because they're basically poor, and they all have tourism products, and they all need to get tourists. So we are training these people from Malta. Then about a month and a half ago, Minister Bartolo announced that we were putting 50 chapters, one in each of the world's poorest countries, and next year we're putting another 40 chapters in each of the small island developing states, all out of Malta. Each of these chapters will become a local centre for climate-friendly travel. And I should be clear about what climate-friendly travel is. It's travel which is adjusted to respond to the demands of a Paris 1.5 future, which takes account of the sustainable development goals, which may be different for Malta than they are for Cyprus or for the UK or France, reflects those in its strategy, as Malta has done in its tourism strategy, and tries to bring it about in a way which is nature positive, because we need to live with nature and the planet. So we're doing all of these things from Malta, with working very closely with MTA, and particularly as an integral part of the tourism strategy and the observatory.
What has been the interest from Maltese stakeholders so far?
I could be tough and say very little, but then I'd have to look in the mirror, because we have not promoted this in Malta. We have developed it in Malta, and we have promoted it around the world. It's with this conference that we are bringing it to Malta. You heard my friend and colleague Hans Fiederich say we created a registry in Malta in Gozo so that we could bring the Maltese tourism industry in. It's free of charge, and we help them to think about how to adapt to an inevitable different future.
So Hans, what can you tell us about Sanex and possibly its contribution? How can it be beneficial for Malta-based operators in the tourism industry?
Well, Keith, as I think you heard, we've created a mechanism, a movement called climate-friendly travel. And basically what we would like to invite all Maltese hotels, lodges, tour operators, basically the hospitality industry, to join that movement, that global movement, so that they become part of the climate-friendly travel group, as it were. The benefits of that is, on the one hand, you're part of a global movement that is growing. At the moment, most of our registrations are in least developed countries because we are focusing on the countries that really need it. But we also want to work specifically in Malta, as Sanex Malta is based here. So the registry is actually based in Malta. So it's, on the one hand, being part of that global movement, which includes marketing opportunities. It includes, the links with tourists, so that tourists that are concerned about climate, concerned about sustainability, will come to hotels that are registered. But on the other hand, also to work with them to think about their climate action plans. Can we help them to think how they can become more sustainable, climate friendly, and basically through our contacts and our support mechanisms, both in information and links with other parties that we have, to basically develop the outline of a climate action plan for every hotel in Malta.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Hans. So what, in your opinion, are the major factors that should shape Malta's tourism future?
I think there are a number of factors that will shape the future of tourism here in Malta. I think, first of all, we need to look at how climate change will have an impact on tourism in Malta. I think at the end of 2023, you're probably going to see 3 million international arrivals, approximately. So 2024, there's a degree of uncertainty. Will you continue to grow? Or there's a study, for example, out from the European Union, which talks about the impact of extreme weather and extreme heat on the Mediterranean. And if that was the case, we're probably going to see a 15% year-on-year decline in tourism in the Mediterranean because of this. But again, it's a scenario, it's a forecast, so it's a degree of uncertainty. But going forward long-term, which is just a 10-year period, climate change will be the most important factor because it's climate change that shapes the destination geography, the place, the climate. You have to ask questions, where will wine be over the next 10 years? How will climate change shape that? Because that's a good indicator of where will tourism be. What will the Mediterranean Ocean look like in the terms of its temperature and fish? So all of these factors around climate change are what will shape the future of tourism here in the terms of that. But without doubt, the seasonality patterns will change, and it's how you handle that. The second factor is probably demography. Europe's hit what we call peak population, and some of your core markets like Italy, France and Germany have a rapidly aging population, and more long term we have to look at their wealth per capita and their productivity, and all of those factors shape tourism demand but also shape tourism supply in the terms of who's working within the tourism industry, because those that work in tourism are fundamentally under the age of 25. So we need to look at different models around probably an older worker, and we have to rethink about the model of migration. And the third factor that will probably reshape tourism very rapidly is probably artificial intelligence, and what that means in the terms of how we engage with tourism, its distribution model, and where we go. They're the three factors. Then against all of that, as sustainability is the number one issue on politicians' mind, you're probably going to see a raft of legislation coming through the EU, which will impact things on consumption, advertising, and how we do things. And because Malta is dependent upon international aviation, we have to see how that will unfold and what that will do. So what can Malta do about it? And I think the only thing it can do about it is you have a pathway of what you think a preferred future is for Malta. But you need a series of indicators if you go off track for that. So this is about a series of scenarios which tell you what the future of tourism in Malta would be. You identify a number of indicators and weak signals, and you're able to react, adapt to those changes in pathways.
Mr. Yeoman, can you briefly describe your company's collaboration with the Malta Tourism Observatory, and what's your take on the actions being undertaken by the observatory?
Sure. So Murmuration is about providing location intelligence, and specifically on the environmental aspects. So we're providing environmental indicators to the Malta Tourism Authority and to the observatory to quantify the state of air, water, biodiversity, impacts, foreseen impacts of climate change, etc. So this takes the form of online interactive dashboards that gets updated regularly on a monthly basis, where the observatory team has access and can investigate the data, delve into the data to extract insights for to support the policy. Regarding what we see from the Malta Tourism Authority and the actions that are undertaken by the team, we see them really at the forefront of sustainability and innovation in this regard. We have interactions with different destinations across the globe, and we see Malta, and we've built together the tool since 2020, mapping the indicators to sustainable development goals, to the local policy, etc. So we see them as really at the spearhead of innovation and sustainability. Yeah.
So, Perit Vella, how can the aviation sector, while remaining sustainable, continue to support the connectivity to Malta?
Yes, this morning we had a very interesting panel with featuring some of the airlines and the Malta International Airport. It was very, very obvious that there's a very direct link between tourism flows and connectivity. The connectivity which is solely offered by the airlines operating in and out of Malta. Obviously, it is very clear that all the airlines, as well as the Malta International Airport, obviously are very committed towards the tourism industry in Malta. We also discussed some of the challenges and new trends, new tourism trends that are obviously changing month to month, year to year. And most of all the airlines, in fact, and I'm convinced it's not just the airlines that we had on the panel this morning, but all the airlines are building strategies to address these new challenges and these new trends. A very important aspect which came out during the discussion was that sustainability, airline sustainability, net zero emissions features very prominently in all their strategies. And I think that is a very important aspect if we really want to move forward, not just with tourism growth, but with sustainable tourism growth.
Perit Vella, thank you so much. Professor Baldacchino, what are the main salient points that came out from your panel discussion focusing on future-proofing tourism in Malta?
I think the main conclusion of the panel discussion I was chairing is the importance of recognizing that our country has a very strong degree of flexibility, an ability to manage tight situations, an ability to respond fairly nimbly and effectively in the case of crises. But of course, the question then becomes, do we recognize that there is a crisis? So the signals that indicate the time to move has arrived are also extremely important and also to drive our flexibility.